Everybody, we are back. It is Taped on Live's favorite Raiders podcast, favorite Raiders channel, favorite Raiders everything. We are back. You guys already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. Also, follow us on Twitter at the Mark John NFL for me, at mholder95 for Matt. And, of course, Panda Subs. Use TDL for 35% off. So, all right, guys. So we're feeling good. Week 1, Raiders 1-0. Finished the game, close game, 17-16. We go into Denver on the road to get a win, big win, especially when you got to go to Buffalo next week. Definitely one you wanted to pull off, and the Raiders ended up doing that. So it was really a good win for the Raiders. I thought the defense really showed up in the second half. I think they kind of struggled in the first half. They made some adjustments, and they really played really well. Only gave up 3 points in the second half, right? I believe.
Yep.
So, the Raiders offense, it was a slugfest a little bit in the second half, but the Raiders offense had one big drive, and then they had another good drive on the second time that, they're able to go in and finish this game. So your initial thoughts, man? I thought it was it's a little bit up and down for the offense, a little bit, but I thought that the defense, played really strong in the second half to kind of finish this game.
Yeah, it was definitely a game where, a few times I felt like the Raiders could have let it spiral and let it get out of hand. Got a little bit of help from the Broncos with the missed field goals, a couple untimely penalties. I was just looking at it right now. Both teams had 10 penalties, which is, too much for the Raiders, but obviously Raiders get a little bit of a boost there. But, yeah, at the end of the day, nice to see them finish. This was the problem we had with them last year, right? They couldn't finish games. They couldn't win these close games. Come out, Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought he had a pretty solid game, used his legs a little bit to seal the win, which I know a lot of people are going to be happy about. So overall, solid game. And obviously great to come away with the road W in the division. Not an easy place to win out in Denver. So good game.
Yeah. Let's start talking about the offense. I thought, Jimmy G played really well overall. He had that really bad red zone interception. I thought that he just really forced that ball. I should have just kind of just threw that away to 3, right? I think that was the point that he should have did that. But, the last drive, he was really clutch. The drive where they were down 16-10. And, it's an interesting stat with Jimmy Garoppolo is that he's 13-12 now because he was 12 for 12 going into the season. So now in a fourth quarter situation, a comeback situation, he actually has a winning record when he's in those situations. So you kind of saw that late in the game where he was able to kind of make some throws and, kind of hang in there. And really, he wasn't really doing that earlier in the game, in my opinion. He wasn't really hanging in there and trying to make some of those throws early in the game. But late in the game, you really saw him be tough in the pocket and make some plays. And, even made some plays with his legs on the last drive. So if the Raiders can play defense like that, and he can keep them in the game, he can really do what he did in San Francisco. But, they're going to have to play defense like that every single week. But I thought he played really well overall, 20 for 26. It's really what they asked for him, what they can do, especially with the run game and them not having a lot of possessions. But, I thought he played really well.
Yeah, he managed, he did exactly what we said he would, right? He managed the offense or whatever and was just enough to get the job done. Like you said, only 6 incompletions. The pick was the only real bad throw. I'm sure if we go through the, couple might have been here or there, but for the most part, that was the only one that really stands out and made plays. Him and Jacoby Myers had a good connection going most of the game. Hopefully Jacoby's gonna be all right because that was a huge hit, but obviously connected for a couple touchdowns. And I was happy to see him starting to finally, him and Devontae start to finally get it together a little bit in that second half too. That was one thing I was getting frustrated with. I think in the first half, and I think a lot of other people too is, where's this superstar receiver that is the all-pro and one of the best in the league that they had 20 yards or something like that, and ends up with the game with 66. Just missed my my prop bet for him on the over at 70, but that's will be all right. We'll be all right. We'll take it with a win.
Yeah, and actually on the last drive it was interesting too because I felt like Jimmy Garoppolo was hitting the middle of the field, and I felt like earlier in the game, which was a little bit sometimes my issue with Josh McDaniels is he tries to make every quarterback Tom Brady, and I think you got to play to Jimmy Garoppolo's strengths. And I really felt like they could have chopped these guys up a lot earlier if they went to the middle of the field a little bit more because you saw some of his best throws in this game, like the one to Devontae Adams when he hit him on the drag route, on the dig route. He hit him in the middle of the field. The one where he hit Jacoby Myers, when he was getting hit, that's over the middle of the field. And I think they started to attack that a little bit more on the last drive, and you kind of see him be a little bit more comfortable. Because it was, to me, they're playing it too high. They're playing those looks. They're playing Devontae Adams. I feel like they should have attacked that all game. But they really didn't do that until that instant, which is fine. You got to do what you got to do to win the game. But you saw him look a little bit more sharper there late in the game because of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, as soon as they started throwing over the middle field, he started opening up. And I mean, in the first half too, like he was still like 10 of 12 or whatever for like just not many yards. But yeah, again, an efficient game for him. Those middle of the field throws, like we thought would be open, were there, and a much more methodical offense. I'm just looking at the drives. I mean, from both sides, there's more, 10 plus play drives than there were 3 and outs in the entire game. So that's not exactly something you see a ton, but good for the offense, good from the efficiency.
Yeah, so talk about the run game because that was a big part of it, and then we'll get to the offensive line as well. I thought the run game, you saw Jacobs, he looked a little stiff in my opinion. You didn't really see the wiggle that you saw for him last year. We'll see if that kind of comes back and he kind of develops throughout the season as he gets more comfortable, but I really didn't see him try to make guys miss as much this game, and kind of was going down a little bit quicker than he usually does. So that was a little interesting to see, but they were able to overcome it. And I still think the red zone issues kind of tie into the run game a little bit. Yeah. And of course the run blocking was not good at all, in my opinion. But, of course we'll go to the film and kind of see a little bit bigger picture of that, but I still think it wasn't that effective there, but usually saw Jacobs make a little bit more plays by himself. So, that was interesting to see. So what were your thoughts, some of your thoughts on the run game overall?
I mean, like you said, I thought the offensive line really struggled in the run game. I think there were a lot of plays like last year. Like I can see where you're coming from of like, Jacobs creating on his own. There was one that like stood out to me where like he made a dude miss in the backfield and ends up, picking up the chunk, but it wasn't like everything we've seen from him. I do feel like we're kind of like a little spoiled with what we've seen from Jacobs. Like him with the blocking that he was getting, the fact that he was almost got 50 yards, like that's a pretty damn good game. Like the fact that we're like sitting here being like, oh yeah, he didn't make as many guys miss. So it's like, well, he also had more guys in his face than right after he got the ball than I think he was anticipating. But yeah, it was definitely the most disappointing part of their offense was they couldn't get anything or couldn't seem to sustain anything on the ground. I mean, even giving Zamir White, a few touch or one touch, whatever, and couldn't quite get it done. But I think I put it on more on the blocking, less on Jacobs for round one, for the game one.
Yeah, but even when he was catching the ball out of the backfield, I thought there was instances where he could have made some guys miss that you usually see that you didn't this game. So hopefully, like I said, he gets more comfortable there and he can start to make some plays even outside of when Jimmy Garoppolo is making some of those checkdowns, because I think that's why they slowed down a little bit earlier in the game, because they did. I mean, there's some chances for them to actually win this game by a lot, in my opinion, especially in the red zone when you got to kind of understand where, that was a big issue last year. It kind of crept into this game. I mean, the 50% is not a good number in the NFL. So being 2 for 4, even though they had the 2 touchdowns, they still has some instances where if they would 3 for 4, I mean, it's just not even really a close game. So,
was it 2 for 4? It was 2 because they got in the red zone on the first one. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, they're 2 for 4, man, in this game. So, they do have to fix that going forward. So back to the last part of the offense, because we didn't see Zamir White, so we're basically getting all Josh Jacobs again. I guess there's no such thing as just Zamir White in that tandem. We're just getting a tease. Took a guy the 4th round for who knows what at this point. So he did have a catch though. I guess he had a catch. So that's growth. That's growth. That's growth. But offensive line wise, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Zamir White, 2 touches, 7 yards today.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that sounds a Zamir White game. Yeah. All right. So offensive line overall, I thought pass protection, they looked pretty good. Like I said, with offensive line, I always like to go to film with them before I get really start critiquing guys and say who played well, who didn't play well. But, I thought overall in pass protection, you saw Jimmy get comfortable back there. He's very comfortable. He's able to, even the last play, nobody was really near him. He's able to, escape out the B gap and get those yards, just like how quarterbacks are taught, you go through all your reads, nothing there. And then you have a chance to get out and get some yards, go get some yards. And he was able to do that because the offensive line was working pretty well. So it was like I said, run blocking, no. Pass protection, yes. So we'll see how that goes when I look at the film, and we'll study that and try to see if they were doing well there. I did not like the rotation, but
I couldn't tell. Were they 7?
Yeah. Which I thought.
I know Munford started the game at tight end. I didn't realize they were switching him in and out at right tackle.
yeah, they're switching him in and out there. But yeah, what were your thoughts?
I mean, kind of the same as you. I definitely thought in pass protection was a lot better. Like I'm just looking at the numbers too. Like no sacks, 3 quarterback hits, not a bad day. I mean, I think the biggest problem, like he said, was the run blocking. Like they just couldn't get anything off the ground. But in pass protection, they did well. That play at the end, I think was great example of it. Garoppolo's got no one open, but the offensive line's doing their job and opened up a little rushing lane for him to step up in the pocket and go win the game for him. So that was the biggest thing. Again, good enough to win. I just get a little worried when they start having to lean on the running attack when it wasn't there tonight. And who knows, maybe next week they got a bigger challenge too with the Bills defense. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, it'll be a bigger challenge with the Bills defense because I still think Vance Joseph. I really thought Jimmy Garoppolo was going to play well this game because he's played well against Vance Joseph in his career, and this against his defense, and just having the middle of the field open, and as soon as they started attacking in this late in that last drive. Not the last drive, but the second to last drive, you really saw why he was going to be comfortable in this game. And then the offensive line playing well, just not giving up a lot of pressure. That's what you really wanted to see. And that was good to see overall. But, like you said, the Bills are going to be a totally different monster. But that's why they needed this game because, they need to be a team that's probably going to be pretty average this year, right? So kind of show who is going to be, who's going to be the better team this year, especially going to Denver in September where it's tough to win. So it was a good win overall. So let's get to the defense, which struggled early on, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think they kind of picked it up in the second half. It would be interesting to see what how they changed it up. Maybe they got more pressure on the quarterback, but I think in the secondary, they were able to kind of shut them down a little bit. I think they kind of switched it up in coverage, but overall, I thought they played well. I thought Jacory Brandon played damn well. I thought he made a lot of tackles. Even he had some mistakes in there, some pass interferences. But
I don't know. I had the opposite reaction with Jacory Brandon. I thought he had a rough game.
You thought so?
He had a couple. Okay. Yeah, I felt like he had a couple misses. I mean, we'll see on the film, but kept giving up a couple passes. But like usually when you're what was he like third on the team in the tackle as a corner?
Yeah,
it's not exactly what you're hoping for, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like Bennett had a little bit of a rough one. Like they were picking on him a lot with Cortland Sutton on the other side. Of the game, at least in the first half of the game. I think I definitely played better in the second half, came up and made a few more plays, but I think I had him missing like 2 tackles at least in the first half, getting cooked a little bit in coverage, had that bad pass interference, but I thought it was a rough debut for Jacory, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I mean, in the first half, I agree with you. I mean, I think it was rough for all of them in the first half. I think they didn't get any pass rush in the first half. Everybody was getting open. They were causing a bunch of penalties. Russell Wilson was basically doing whatever he wanted. He was 17-19. But in the second half, I think they leaned down and tried to figure out how the best way to get to Russell Wilson and, kind of play some better coverage in the back end. And I think they mixed it up a lot better. It was really a better outing overall because they only gave up 3 points in the second half, and that was big. So to keep the Raiders in this game because I think the Raiders offense did stall. I mean, we keep it real. I mean, the end of the game looked really well, but they did stall pretty much in this game, and then blew up in the red zone with that red zone interception. It could have been a lot worse in previous years. You know what I'm saying? So the way the defense kind of held it down, I thought that was a pretty good outing overall.
Yeah, I thought the defense was pretty good in the red zone today. Like they definitely locked it down, but like. The one thing I will say is like the Broncos did have a missed field goal to start the first half that helped them get some points. Broncos go down to the 5 and end up kicking a field goal, which again, good for the Raiders defense for getting the stop in the red zone and getting that last 3 and out to finish the game. But yeah, like when I was talking about, it felt like there were moments where this game could have gotten away from them. That missed field goal is one thing that stuck out in my mind. Broncos kind of shoot themselves in the foot a little bit with a few bad Russell Wilson passes on that like long field goal drive. Towards the end of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, like a good showing. I felt like defensive line. I mean, again, that's another thing we'll have to go back and cut the tape on this. But outside of Max Crosby, like wasn't a whole lot of guys that were getting pressure. Like Jerry Tillery got a sack, but it was a coverage sack. I was impressed with what I saw from Diablo though. I felt like he had a really good game today. So.
Yeah, Spillane too. I thought Spillane played pretty well. Just because there's nothing open downfield. And I think that the linebackers kind of getting in good positions or have something to do with that a little bit too. Because I think a lot of the secondary play well. I mean, I think we haven't seen in the film, but I bet Marcus Epps played pretty damn well for guys not to be open back there. Same thing with Trayvon Moreg. I thought he played well. I see somebody talk about Kuntz. I thought Kuntz got some pressure too. He didn't get a lot of snaps like maybe he should have, and they had Jerry Tillery playing out there a little bit. But I thought Kuntz, when he was out there, he got some pressure. So yeah, defensive line, got to go check that on the film too a little bit and see what's going on out there, especially back in the secondary because they didn't make any plays really. Yeah. But Russell Wilson didn't have a lot of guys open, so it's interesting to see what they were doing back there to kind of make things happen.
Yeah, the one thing I will say for the secondary too, and this probably builds the case for Jacorian a little bit, is like especially in the first half, like there were a lot of plays where it was like scramble drills where nobody was getting pressure, where like they had everyone covered at first, but I don't know what it is for I guess it's tough against the Broncos against a guy like Russell, but as soon as he started scrambling, it seemed like they kind of like forgot their rules. Like Spillane had one where I think he got faked out by Russell, like pointing to someone else and dumped it to the running back. Mary had that one in the back of the end zone that was on a scramble drill. And I think even one of the plays Bennett got beat on by Sutton was on the scramble drill too. So that was one of the biggest things. If I had 2 knocks on the defense from today, it would be the scramble drills too, and on the coverage, which again tough to complete, and the missed tackles. Yeah. I felt like there were quite a few today. Like Meeks stands out big time on was that P Ryan that went for like about 30, and I felt like there were a few too many today that you'd like to have cleaned up, but. Overall, like I said, we'll take a good showing in the red zone like they had today. That's something we haven't seen from them in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, because overall, if they don't get the pressure like they do this game next week, I mean, Josh Allen's going to tear them up. So, they have to get more consistent pressure. Everybody getting after the quarterback. Like I said, we talk about defensive line. I see somebody said we don't see 98 was sliding in the first half. How do you see that he was? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, but we got to kind of see what's happening with the defensive line before I get in the trenches, because this is how the game looks on broadcast. It's really hard to kind of signal that you're following the football. You're trying to watch everything at the same time. So, we got to see what's happening there. But if the defensive line, if they play like that next week. Man, it's not gonna be fun to watch. I'll tell you that for sure.
No, because those are the things that like Josh Allen lives for, right? The guys like Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, that's what they want. Is they want you to not get a good pass rush, and then they want to be able to scramble around. They don't want to check it down. Those guys don't want to obviously you get a pressure in their face and have to check it down. They want you to sit there and have no rush, even if everything's tightened up, and then let their magic happen after that. But
man, yeah. That's what they got to work on. That's what's going to be interesting to see on film, because week 1, it's so tough. It's like, is the Broncos don't have a good offense, or are the Raiders going to play good defense? And that's what the confusion gets here, right? Because they played really good in the second half, but the first half we saw some leaks, and still overall they weren't able to get a really, really good pass rush. So, man, if they don't, it doesn't matter if they play like that next week with the defensive line. It's going to be a long day. I don't care how the linebackers look. They can make as many tackles. Cornerbacks can make as many great tackles. But Gabe Davis and all those guys are going to be tearing them up. But go ahead.
Curious for how you thought the D-line did against the run, because I kind of felt like they were like the Broncos ended up averaging 4.3 a carry on the ground. I felt like the D-line, like you were talking about, like just now, like the linebackers made a couple nice plays, like Spillane and Diablo were making good plays, but I felt like the D-line was getting washed a little bit more.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about Bennett and Hobbs. I mean, playing well, because I thought Bennett came up and made some tackles against the run. Yeah, and that made a difference, because they were able to get outside, because they weren't setting the edge well. So since they weren't setting the edge, that's why Bennett, he would come up and make some tackles, and that's why I was like, that's at least you see some good things from him there. I know coverage and corners and tackling.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean. Sure. But they were. I think they were targeting those guys a little bit. They're trying to get to the outside and make those guys come up and tackle. And I think Bennett and Hobbs really came up and answered. And I think that had a big deal, because if they didn't make those tackles, those guys were just running, because they weren't setting the edge. And that's what I'm saying. The defensive line, they can't play like this next week. So if they do, there was one play
specifically that that stuck out to me, like about setting the edge, where like Jerry Tillery, like I'm like, dude, I don't know how we can help you out against the run anymore. Like he's playing end. He's doing fine on the block. Then he ducks inside his gap too early, and Devontae Williams bounces it outside for a first down. I'm like, this is why it's so damn frustrating with you, dude. Like you just cannot help yourself, even when you're doing the right thing first. You end up screwing yourself with one little thing. But you did bring up one guy I want to give a shout out to that I thought had a hell of a game was Nate Hobbs. I mean,
Yeah.
he was flying around, and I know I just said DB is normally not a great sign when you're showing up high on the tackle sheet, but like that dude was actually blowing up. Like I felt like every screen coming to his side, like every little swing pass. I think he had a few TFLs in coverage, which you don't really see a ton. And he was like playing like he was fired out of a cannon. I thought he had a heck of a game. I think he had like 11 tackles, probably a couple for loss, maybe, or for short gain at least. So yeah, Nate Hobbs, 12 tackles, 2 for loss, woo, and a QB hit.
Okay. Yeah, man. So there were some good elements in the secondary, but the defensive line, man, we got to figure that out. They got to figure something out. That rotation, big time. Especially inside, man. They're not getting any push inside at all. Yeah. So somebody wants us to give a shout out to Jacob Bobenmeyer, the long snapper. I don't. Did he make some tackles on special teams?
Revenge game for Jacob Bobenmeyer.
Yeah, it was. So we can see that was a revenge game.
Let's see.
I mean,
it doesn't have it on ESPN.
You have a tackle?
Great snaps today, Jacob. Great snaps. Not a single bad one.
They say Tyree Wilson looked gassed, but yeah,
I was seeing that he was. He was laid off the ball. Like I wasn't paying enough attention to him, but like he was definitely laid off the ball. But I'm also like he's always kind of just laid off the ball. So like I don't know if that was him being gassed or him just being him. But yeah, he definitely blended in today. He was definitely part of the problem with the defensive line, or at least not part of the solution. But yeah, and I think Vic pointed out that he was gassed. I don't know, maybe dude doesn't like the altitude. But
it's tough, bro.
And I will say in his defense, like you can't complain about him getting gassed and him also having training wheels almost all of training camp. Like
yeah.
He didn't play. Like he shouldn't be in shape. Like you know what I mean? Like the guy had a foot injury that they were nursing him with it, and now he's out playing in one of the highest altitudes in the entire NFL. Like it's kind of a recipe for disaster for him.
This is a good comment. Teamer can't be backup safety anymore, but he made a great special teams tackle on one of those kickoff returns. So he literally almost saved the touchdown. That dude was right about to pass the 30. Here comes Roderick, special teamer, making a great play there. So
I didn't see what he did. I didn't see what he did defensively.
He had to play out there because I think Mora got hurt for a little bit. So
I didn't even notice. Was he bad out there? His team were taking a stray over here.
Man, he's out there to make special teams tackles. That's what we want him there. Any other thoughts here? I'm trying to think of anything else. I'm trying to see if there's any questions in here. I don't see anything, but definitely, I'm super interested in the film in this game, especially the offensive line, because it was so ugly on the run game, it looked like, and it was so clean in the pass protection. I want to see how that outlook looked, and of course, what Jimmy are out there and look, they were cooking back there.
Yeah, I'll be interested. Maybe that'll be our little teaser for the breakdown. Maybe I'll do the D line, you do the get the O line or something like that. For
you do something, and do a little separate Jimmy G breakdown.
Got to put the feelers out there right now. Let people know. You know what I mean? Get a little preview for Tuesday's action.
Yeah, I appreciate Jimmy G too, because he keeps it to 26 passes, not too many for my breakdown of him. I like it. Thank you, Jimmy. To keep it to 26 passes today, very efficient. 20 of 26. A lot of completions, a lot of incompletions.
I will say he had 4 scrambles. That's going to make it a little bit. That makes it a little.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He had 9 rushes. It said something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, you don't think you're getting off easy over there. You've got a lot more than what meets the eye.
Oh man, he just didn't want Vegas to hit over the 35 attempts because he had the dropbacks for it. He's like, I'm going to run today. So I guess there's a quarterback
out there.
There's some sneaks
out
in
there
there
shaving
too.
Points.
Yeah, man. He's he didn't like what Vegas was putting out there. All right. Anything else here? Why was the running game so bad? That's what we're gonna find out, man. We're gonna have to go look at that film and see what's happening there.
I felt like, I don't know. I mean, again, we'll see on the film, but I felt like there were a few times where I noticed Dylan Parham like getting pushed in the backfield a little bit, having a rough game. I felt like he didn't
Yeah.
have the greatest showing. And I mean, Colton Miller got beat badly for a TFL by Zach Allen at the end of the game there.
I know.
That caught me off by surprise. I know Colton's not like known for his run blocking, but that was ugly.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts? The real question, I guess, what happened? What happened to Hunter Renfrow? I was wondering the same thing.
There was a point where when they started pointing him out, I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like I've seen him on the field. Like I feel like I would be curious what his snap count was.
You know what's super interesting to me is when Myers got hurt and they came back on the field, it was Carter and Adams on the field when they came out with 21 personnel. I was like, wow, is that what we're doing here? I mean, so what are we doing? If you're putting DeAndre Carter out there before you put Hunter Renfrow out there, and you're putting Carter in a condensed set just like you would Renfrow.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they don't trust him as a run blocker in that situation because it was 4 minute or. Yeah, 4 minute offense, right?
You run blocker with Gruden.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like if you're putting him close to the line of scrimmage over the other dude, like they just don't trust him yet.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Wilkerson too.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Yeah, he was especially towards the red zone. I think that makes more sense because Wilkerson's like the biggest body outside of Devontae and the more physical run blocker. But
yeah, it does make sense. But Renfrow had 9 red zone touchdowns in 2021, so that's I don't know.
Very true.
This is super interesting, man. I mean, I'm not the gossip. This is not a gossip show, but in my opinion, if you're gonna do that, just trade him. What can we get for him, right? If you're gonna play,
Wilkerson, if you're not gonna use him, yeah. Well, now they might have to keep him depending on I don't know. I'm gonna think that Jacoby Myers probably might not play next week because again, that was a freaking shot that he took. And I mean, I'd be surprised if he comes back. So now they might need him, and we might see more grabs from Hunter Renfrow. But maybe, yeah. But I'm on board. Like, if you're not going to use this dude, not going to throw to him a single time, and not going to put him on the field when the game matters the most, what is he doing on the roster at that point?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's super. It's crazy because he's just too good of a player. It ain't like he's not. What are we doing, man? What are we doing at this point? I mean, seeing DeAndre Carter out there before him, I was like, wow. I mean, he must be really in his doghouse. Really in his doghouse.
Freelance too much, maybe? You think? I mean, that was the thing with him and Derek at first, right? Like Derek never knew when he was going to get open because he does too much dancing or whatever, and it took him a while to build that. And McDaniels, as we know, doesn't have a ton of patience and is very a little bit more authoritarian than some other coaches with his offense. So
just trade him, man. At this point. Because I just don't understand why you have him out there if you're not going to have him play. I mean, they threw the Myers and him all game. So
I don't know. We'll see. If Myers is out and Hunter Renfrow again has a similar stat line, then I think we can legitimately have that conversation.
See, this is kind of funny to say because Waller's in the same offense in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, same offense. I mean, it's not of course Dable's a little bit more updated and a little more creative, but same offense. It's they come from the same thing. They both were there in 2001. As Josh McDaniels had better handwriting than Brian Dable, so Bill Belichick liked him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The Hunter Renfrow career arc's an interesting one right now with the Raiders. So. But
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I was kind of speechless about that. All right, man, we're out of here. I don't know what we're gonna see next week. Myers is hurt. It's gonna be interesting to see what they game plan. We got the Buffalo Bills on the road in Buffalo. That's gonna be a tough matchup. Defensive line has to show up next week, or they're gonna get picked apart because Josh Allen is not Russell Wilson. I'll say that right now. So offense looked good overall. Got to get that run game going, but we'll see next week. They're playing a little bit of a weaker run defense. I mean, historically, but we'll see how they look this year. Every year's different. Could be interesting, guys. All right. Any last thoughts, Matt?
Not much. Yeah, like you said, going to be interested to see how next week. Good to get the win today. Happy to see them fight and finally finish a game. Obviously, one step further from correcting their issues from last year. I believe last year they lost the opener too to the Chargers, right? So already starting off better than last season. So it's got to hang your hat on that. And big test next week. Got to watch Monday Night Football, get the scouting report down, and see what these Bills have in store.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Definitely watching this Jets game for sure. Yeah. All right, guys, we're out of here. I appreciate you guys joining us. We got 300 in here. Really love it. Check out everything that we're doing, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. We're out of here. Peace.
See ya.